Hello, welcome to third year of A-FilmTeensFest. I'm Müller and together with Lisa, we will read questions and answers with young, talented filmmakers. Be free to use chat if you have some questions you are interested in. And today we have three filmmakers, Alex, Melinda, and Andreas. We will start with Alex. He's known for his short film Light Coastal. So, Alex, how are you?
Doing good, thanks. Thanks for the invite, and I'm glad to be here.
Okay, and how would you introduce yourself? Where are you from, and what are you studying?
I am a freelance director from Vienna, Austria. I am not studying anything. I'm actually already in the working world. I started making films when I was really young, like 14, and I continued making films while I was still in school. And as the films got, I hope, better, we got into film festivals and won awards. And when I graduated high school, I thought, what if I could offer all the skills that I got from making my personal short films all these years? What if I offered them to people and to people who needed them? And that led to me, just starting to work as a freelancer in 2020. And nowadays I make music videos, social media ads, as well as writing and directing my own films.
Okay, thank you. And I have seen your film, but can you tell us one thing that makes your film different from others? Because there is one thing, and you know that. Can you explain it?
Yes, so our film is told completely by showing shadows. So, Light Carousel is actually a coming of age story about a young man who lives through his last day in his hometown before he departs for university in another country. And we spent this day with him when he says goodbye to his friends and family, packs up all his things. And the film is basically about the transition from being a child and a teenager to being a young adult and kind of being alone for the first time. And all of that is told through not showing the actors directly, but only the shadows of the actors.
Yeah. Uh, how did the story inspire you to choose this visual? How important it was?
Actually, the first I had the idea of doing a film only by showing shadows. I thought there was a cool idea, and that kind of got me into thinking about, okay, what kind of story would fit this kind of visual, and in the um, what what story can I tell that will make sense by showing only the shadows? And that kind of led me to thinking about nostalgia, because when you show shadows, actually what you're showing are surfaces most of the time, like the floors and walls and things on walls. And that led me down to thinking about nostalgia, like what do I have on my shelf back there? There are books, and all of these books evoke memories and are kind of also a part of my personal identity. And I was 19, I think, when I started writing the short film. And at 19, like, your only points of reference in terms of nostalgia are your childhood. So that started this whole process into writing something about nostalgia to childhood.
You used that cartoon carpet. Do you remember? With the town. It's very popular in Czech Republic too. You can see it almost daily in some houses. So it was nice.
Great, yeah. I appreciate that you that you call shout out the carpet. Yeah, the carpet, I think it's kind of really an international thing. Like, I even know Americans that are that know that carpet, and I think it's just a really awesome. I actually got the idea from a meme. There was like a meme on Instagram with that carpet, and I was like, and it was like all over Instagram. It was on American pages and European pages, and I was like, okay, that's got to be some kind of universal nostalgia that I can incorporate into this film.
Can you please tell us about what practical limitations you faced when you were working with only shadows and surfaces?
It was a really most of the process was really technical. So the biggest challenge was scouting locations. We To make this film interesting, we didn't only rely on, okay, let's do every single scene with natural light, or let's do every single scene with artificial light. We like each scene is shot in a different way, just to keep it interesting and not to rely on one trick that would get the audience bored. So the biggest challenge was tying a studio scene with an exterior scene with a studio scene with natural light together, and actually finding, like, lighting wasn't that big of an issue. We just did one rehearsal with tests where we just checked how long the shadows can be, like how high you place the light or how low you place the lights. And we shot the whole film basically upside down, and we flipped the image in the post-production. It sounds more complicated than it really was. And the most complicated thing was actually finding the surfaces. So I wanted a field with sunflowers, and it was the beginning of September in Austria, and you don't, like, most of the sunflowers are gone. And we found like 3 fields, but you actually need to find the spot where you can stand and where the sun will throw a shadow on the field. So finding that particular spot, there would the shots weren't traditional, like wide and close. There were like some weird, I don't know, you like 3 square feet that you shoot on the ground. So we had to find like a spot that would work, and that was really like time consuming and the most challenging part.
And how many days did you shoot the film? Tell us about the production process.
I think we only shot for like 4 days, 3 or 4 days. Like, we shoot really fast because all of my productions, like my short films, just like my music videos and my social media advertisement shoots, like I try to prepare everything as detailed as I can in pre-production. So when we actually get to shooting, it's only execution, and then we can be open for improvisation, and then we can also kind of have a relaxed working process at the shoot, because shooting is like really stressful anyway. So that's
Yeah.
why I try to prepare as much as I can and draw up the shots and do detailed shot lists. Things like that.
And how did you choose your actors? Did you have some shadow casting or something like that?
No, the casting process was also really particular. I kept it a secret that the film would only consist of shadows. So in the casting process, the script I sent out like was the same script, but every single exposition line where something visual would be explained with shadows was either deleted or changed into if it was a regular film. So basically we worked as if we were to shoot like a normal film without shadows. And then when I kind of found my actors, then I told them about the visual concept and hoped that they would be still on board. Like most actors were pretty confused at first when they heard that they wouldn't be seeing only their shadows, but we kind of talked it through, and most of them were really excited and up for the challenge. There were, I think, 1 or 2 actors that were like my first picks that said they didn't want to make the film, so I had to recast them. but most of the cast was like really excited and put a lot of trust in me, and I was really grateful that they trusted me, because stuff like this, it goes the same for the cinematographer. Like, you don't do a project like this for your portfolio because it's so unusual, like it's really specific, and we all won't shoot a film only with shadows again. So it's really a specific project, and everybody put a lot of trust into these ideas, and I'm really grateful for that.
Can I ask you about your team? You mentioned the cinematographer, but I also wanted to say that the set design was stunning because of how both realistic and poetic its quality was. Is that the team that you were working on your previous films or on your previous projects, or did you combine the people around for the first time?
Most of the people on this film I had worked with before, and especially like the set designers. We had like two set designers that I worked with on this short film, and I had worked with both of them. And the set design was so important because you had no visually, you had no actors there, and you had no depth in the frames, and almost no lighting design. I mean, we have this one scene where the shadows are framed by windows, but you can't like do 3-point lighting and stuff like that. So the only interesting thing you can put into your frame are like things and set design, basically. So it had to be it had to tell the story and also be grounded and authentic. And I'm glad that you liked it, because that was also a really difficult thing to nail. Not to be too not to direct too much, not to be too artful, and not to be too realistic, because when you do go too artsy, it won't be grounded, and it would be like you couldn't connect to it. And when you become too naturalistic and too realistic, it won't really be interesting to look at a wall for like a scene that would take 3 minutes. So we have to balance that out.
There is one thing in your story. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think I have heard two languages. Is it right? Deutsch and Bulgaria. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. I all of my family is from Bulgaria. I'm born and raised in Austria, but all of my family is from Bulgaria, and that part of the movie is really also autobiographical for me. It was my first time I'm putting my mother tongue basically in one of my films, and my mom even helped me with like, I know Bulgarian, but I'm not born and raised in Bulgaria, so my mom helped me with some of the dialogue. And I was also really grateful to find Bulgarian actors in Austria for this film. And it was just, yeah, it was a really personal process. Like, the main actor, he's like 100% Austrian. He had to learn Bulgarian for the role, even if it was just the lines in the script, but still a really big challenge because he had no he had no point of reference for Slavic languages. So yeah, we had to do a lot of Bulgarian rehearsals.
You started doing your films at around your 14 years old. And what was your motivation? Why did you choose filmmaking and not another activity, not sport? Why film? Why is it so fresh for you?
Mm-hmm. I was thinking about that question like 1 or 2 years ago, and I kind of started to get why I got into filmmaking. For like, before I was 14, like, I went through all different phases where I thought I had my dream job. Like, at one point I wanted to be a video game designer, at one point I wanted to be a police detective, and that kind of led me to try out a lot of different things. And I guess I was always a really sensitive person, and in cinema, when when a film works, when it's done right by talented filmmakers, like you can get to a place where if you trust the film, if you trust the medium, you get to a place where all of your senses are kind of directed, and you put all of your visual and things you hear all into the hands of artists and craftsmen, and then you get to a place where you get a really specific experience, but also in a safe space where nothing can happen to you, like watching a horror film. So that was always really intriguing to me. And when I guess when I was like around 14, I saw Christopher Nolan's Inception for the first time, and that was kind of the film that really made me understood what a director is. Because the director is also a really difficult job to explain, like when you're not a professional and when you're not in the industry. And then I like Inception, like it was such a good film for me back then, and made such a big impression on me. And it wasn't because of the script or because of the acting or because of the cinematography. It was kind of just because of the glue that holds everything together, and that film specifically like really made me realize, oh, I want to be that glue. So yeah, that's why I started getting into filmmaking back then. But I didn't know how to articulate it, of course, at 14. It just came years later, like thinking about it, why I got into filmmaking. But I kind of had this feeling that I want to be that person. I want to do the things that Christopher Nolan did to me as an audience member.
Well, I wish you all the best. And what do you want to film on next? Do you have some crazy project in your head?
Actually, my next projects are less experimental. Are like when if it makes sense to label it more commercial. Actually, I'm currently writing my first feature film already, which will be about the world of young entrepreneurship and the self-help industry. So yeah, I'm currently writing that feature film.
And what about your family? Does they support you? Are you from a more artistic family, or tell me about your family? You already said your parents are from Bulgaria, but can you tell us more?
Yes, my family has been really, really supportive since day one. Like I don't come from an artist family. Like there's nobody in my family in the arts and entertainment industry. But I guess because I started like really early on, and I was like the young filmmaker, like not only at home, my parents supported me, but also like I had some teachers in school that really supported me, because like from day one it was never like just a fun hobby. I really wanted to do it for real. Like even when I was like 14, I was like super ambitious. I wanted to do all these crazy films, and that really I was just grateful to have like my parents and my family and teachers in school and all of my friends back then. They were like acting in my films, but had nothing to do with like film professionally. I was just really glad to have all these people around, and that kind of got me started. And yeah, so my family is like really supportive.
Coming back to you starting very early and being a commercial director of advertisements, of music videos, and of was you writing your first feature film. How do you even have problems with being maybe sometimes the youngest person on set, or how do you walk around with people that are older than you, that are more experienced, and has it ever been a problem for you?
It depends. I mean, I definitely have gone through experiences where all the people where I don't know wouldn't give me the respect for my work because I'm younger, or I wouldn't get into specific opportunities because of my age. But at the same time, there were like I got into a lot of rooms because I was the young guy, and I still am the young guy and the youngest guy in the room. So I wouldn't say it's any kind of handicap. In most cases, like it's a gift, because there will definitely be a point like in the next couple of years where I won't be the youngest guy in the room anymore. So I'm just trying to make the most out of it for now, because it won't ever be like this ever again in terms of thinking.
Okay, so if there are no questions other to Alex, can I move on to Andreas? Hi. I also wanted to applaud to your work as a really young filmmaker and having animations that are really, really high quality without, probably a professional guidance in that field. Having somebody who guided you with that knowledge. Could you explain your process and what your films are usually about? Or is there like some higher motive that you're making those films with?
I don't think so that there's one recurring theme for these short films. So the process for my last short film, Disconnected Head, was I basically just started to experiment with some animation style with silhouettes I used for the storyboard for my short film I did before, Fishing. And then I kind of developed that. Then I started to think about a story after that, after I discovered this animation style. So I'm really bad at writing. I just don't. It's constantly frustrating and writer's block. So I just started making movies without a script, which was possible since I'm doing animation. So it's kind of like I'm doing the storyboard, the script, and the animation all at once. So I was doing for Disconnected Head, I was doing one shot, dragging it into the timeline, and then thinking what the next shot could be. And kind of just that made me also a lot of times got me stuck because I didn't know what the next shot would be for this short film. But that's the process.
About this process, did you also feel like the writer catching one small fish after another in your movie Fishing?
I guess it's like that.
I just wanted to say that there are some similarities in the visual aspect with Blade Runner, as I kind of Blade Runner 2049. To me, it seemed very, very like a very, very good palette to use there. Were there the similarities, or is it just me imagining things?
Yeah, of course. I mean, it's also a dystopic science fiction, cyberpunkish setting, and I definitely got some inspiration for the atmosphere. And one of the things that, of course, impressed me so much about Blade Runner was the atmosphere, and creating something like that was the goal.
I must say that for 3D, your work on Disconnected Head is quite unique. Can you please describe what influenced your style and what creative limitations you have while working with 3D?
Yes, so the animation style came, as I already said, that it came out of the storyboard, and there's this website it's called Mixamo, where there are a bunch of pre-made animations, motion capture animations. So I could just use these without having to hand animate all of these things, which saved me a lot of time. And I used this technique before on this storyboard for my last short film, where I just used primitive silhouettes to pre-visualize the movie, and then I started to experiment with it. Started to think, what if I added some volume and lighting to this animation style? And yeah, it's kind of just grew naturally. What was the second question?
About the limitations that you find working with 3D.
Yeah, the limitations are that, well, that everything, of course, takes way longer to do, especially if you're alone. But I kind of think there are more liberties than limitations, because I'm working alone, and you're kind of independent. I also started to do my first completely animated short film. Also the short film I did before that fishing was with an actor, and after that and the project I wanted to do with a good friend of mine failed, because sometimes actors are really unreliable and don't show up. And the good thing about working alone is you're just independent and can say, okay, screw you, I'm gonna do it alone.
Can I ask you about the big shark in your film Fishing? What does he represent?
He represents the next big idea that that she always gonna tries to catch. Is going to try to catch, because there's always gonna be a bigger idea and something that's getting in the way before you finish your project.
Yeah, I'm just asking because I wasn't sure if it is something good, like a bigger, better idea, or it is something like a dangerous idea. Yeah, so thanks. Okay, I know.
Sometimes big ideas are dangerous ideas.
Yes, of course.
Can you please tell us about how it was working with an actor for your film Fishing, except for the parts that it requires working with somebody who is not you, and that you mentioned this problem of unreliability with actors.
So the actor was my sister, which was good because she was also around. So she couldn't run away, especially during COVID. I'm actually very grateful that she was part of the project. So, well, what was it like? I kind of just built this wacky green screen studio in our barn, and we just shot for like half an hour to an hour, and I would go back to the computer and test out the lighting and the keying and the green screen and the lighting, and if it fits with the 3D elements. And then I would go back and shoot the next half an hour or so, and that was basically a process. So it was kind of every sequence was shot separately, and I would do a lot of tests before I shot the final before I shot the final thing that ended up in the movie, and just every time did a little test of how the lighting would work, because you have to match what your lights on set are with the lights you designed in the 3D scene. Yes.
I must say, I'm sorry.
It's okay. I just wanted to ask about your film Fishing. You took inspiration from David Lynch, the quote in the beginning, and I'm just curious, did you found that quote before filming or after filming?
Yes, I found that quote before filming.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure what the story would be about, and then I just knew that I wanted to create these surreal worlds and atmosphere that the character was rushing through. And then I found this quote by David Lynch.
Could I ask you just about quite a practical thing? How long do your productions or your animations usually take to make, actually? Because you've produced like 2 very high-end animations in a year, if I'm not mistaken. So how much time do you spend on them, really?
It takes progressively longer with every short film. And yeah, I think on fishing, I worked on like 4 months about that during school and working on weekends and holidays. And yes, Disconnected Head was about also so 3 months or something like that. And with a lot of I also took a long pause while working on Disconnected Head. It was like 90% done, and I was so demotivated and thought the film sucked. And then I looked back at it and then, okay, maybe it's not that bad after a few months.
Yeah, we all have those those ups and downs. Yeah, they're there.
Yeah, right now I'm working on something that takes even longer. I started to think and try things out. Started experimenting for this for my next short film about a year ago, and only did get really started about 2 months ago with that project. So yes, sometimes it's really frustrating when everything takes so long and you only have the time to work on it at weekends.
Yeah, and what is your next film, if you don't mind me asking?
Well, it's kind of hard
In
to
progress,
explain.
yeah, that's the okay.
It's basically 3 independent stories inside of one short film. The first one is about a near-death experience. The second one is, well, how do I describe that? Kind of a thought process, a train of thought a character goes through, and the last one is also a thought experiment. What if a brain was inside? What if a brain was completely disconnected from everything and didn't have any body or senses, and what would it think about when there's nothing? Yeah, it's hard to explain. I'm still working on it.
It's actually very, very thought-provoking for a brain to be on its own. Yeah, good luck with it.
It's
Thank
very
you.
inspiring that your films are getting more and more ambitious, and that your ideas are so interesting. We really can't wait to watch another work.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. So good luck.
And another question, if I can throw in, what was the initial thing that kind of brought you to animation, and what was your process getting into? How did you learn the animation process? How did you get into your own pattern of work, and how can one start producing animations as a solo filmmaker?
Well, I started. I was did small stop motion animations with my Nintendo at age 9, and then a few years later, I got a laptop on which I could try out some more free VFX software, and then I just started watching YouTube tutorials, and I'm always trying to use VFX to do short films. And yeah, so if you want to start, just get a download Blender, watch a few tutorials, And yeah, it's actually that simple, but it's also very hard.
And one thing that I think everyone in here has in common, that all of your films are very personal, aren't they? Every single one of you filmmakers in here, hello, made something very personal to you. If Alex had a coming of age, Andreas had a something of a everybody struggles with sometimes running from our own brains. Melinda, you had a very much current family drama about how to come to terms with our the bringing up from our parents. Can you tell us more about your film? Melinda, can we hear you, or am I audible? Am I? Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So about the storyline, or how do you want to?
Was it really personal? What was probably the initial thought that made you think this is the film I'm going to do? Because it's a very current theme, and I think it's a very one, difficult to talk about, and very important to talk about in our generation. So what was the initial thought that brought you to making this film?
I think it's more like many thoughts that gave me the idea, and I think it's like 12 years at school and talking to many like young adults as me, and hearing their stories and their struggles and their conflicts with their parents. So there were like many true facets, and then I turned it into one fictional story. And I think that was kind of the beginning of it.
Can you tell us how you came up with the structure of the story, where we don't even see the protagonist and only hear from her in the very end, after we've heard the sides of the story of her loved ones?
Yeah, that was very important for me, because I think that many young adults aren't able to take action. They are just able to react to what the adults are doing. So I thought it was very interesting to create a story where the protagonist is away. So she like made an action. She went away, and then the adults around her need to react. And we just see her through her parents' eyes, through her coach's eyes, and her best friend's eyes. And so we see many facets of her, but we don't see her as a person. And I think it's often like that in real life. People don't see us, but our reflections through different people's eyes.
And what are the biggest lessons you have learned from making this film? What surprised you?
I think it's like that you can ask for help if you don't know something, that you can that you don't need to do everything. But yeah, I made many mistakes with that in this project.
Yeah, but I'm guessing that when you ask for help, the answer wasn't long silence, so it's okay.
Yeah, right. I think that was a lesson to learn, and also I think what was great is that you can do it. You can do it, and there is a solution for everything. I mean, I made this movie while COVID was not a great place, so people were getting sick before the shooting, and I needed to replace an actor because she was sick and everything. but I learned that you can manage, and you just need to, be able to accept the change.
Yeah, and can you tell us about your crew? Who was helping you?
I had one cameraman, one assistant, and one girl who did the makeup. So we were just a few people.
Oh.
And my brother helped me also. And the rest was just the actors, because it's a chamber play, so it's just mostly one room. So there wasn't much space for many people to be around.
Yeah. And can you tell us about the competition you have won in Switzerland, that pitching competition? Tell us more, please.
Yeah, right. It's like a pitching contest where you need to pitch your idea in 3 minutes. And my father saw the posters and sent it to me. And then I thought maybe this would be a cool experience, to meet other people, to try it out. And then I did it, and it was very funny that I won it. I was kind of surprised. And so it was a very interesting experience to win, not with a movie, but your idea. And it was very cool, because when you win the contest, you get 3 mentorings, where you meet with 3 different people. You decide who help you and give you ideas. And the second part of the prize was that you're the opening movie of the next festival. So that was also a great prize, that you can have a premiere at the festival in the cinema, which was an amazing experience.
Yeah, I want to ask about the story about father and mother. There is a flashback scene in a chess and a mirror scene in the bathroom. How important it is for story? Can you explain it more?
Yeah, right. It's cool that you ask about these 2 scenes, because they are very important for me as well. I think they were in my mind from the beginning. And for me, the chat scene was my self-destruction, and the fight within ourselves. And I wanted to portray it like that the father plays against himself, and it was clear that he needed to lose, because if you play against yourself, one side needs to lose. And
there is one thing. I play chess almost every day, and he plays against himself, but he surrender as white. But the white has winning positions, so it's like, why did he surrender as white? Because the white is winning, but it doesn't matter. Almost nobody can see it.
Yeah, right. I think it was for me the interesting part was that he didn't even wanted to win. I think
Okay.
in the movie that he was just drinking and playing and very lost in his own mind, and the chess was more symbolic for it. And then the mirror scene, the other one with the mother, for me was generational trauma, and also the circle of life, and how we how the protagonist suffers from the trauma that her mother has because of her own mother. And I think it's very interesting to think about these kind of things, and to get inside of the mother's mind a bit, because she's a distant character in the movie and not that kind. Yeah.
Could I please ask you, what was the, again, on the process of the filmmaking and on the production itself, What was it like to guide a couple of actors? There were, I think, it was one of the films in this festival that is where the scene is the most full with characters. There were, I think, yeah, that you had to direct 8 people, I guess, at one time. Or was it even, probably it wasn't more, but it was 8 people. How was it when these guys, these characters and these actors were quite ahead of your age? What was it like to guide them through the idea of feeling pressured and to kind of portray the theme of the movie that is very current for our age, but probably can be a bit distant to their generation? What was it like?
I think it was very interesting because I actually think we learned a lot about each other because they had a lot more experience. And I was like more at the age that the film is about, like that. I think sometimes it was difficult for me because they were like, some of them were like 40 years old and I'm like 20. So it was interesting to be the director when all the other people are older than you. But also they were very kind and very nice people and very empathetic. So yeah, and what helped me, and actually that I met with all of them before, one person at a time, and I talked with them, and they really wanted to know why I made a movie, what it was about, what's the most important thing about the character, so that like we could communicate on a better level. So it was easier for me to direct them.
Yeah.
And yeah, that helped me a lot.
Yeah. And did you have a rehearsal before with them, or yeah, you did? So what are the steps that you would recommend for someone making a similar movie of this similar ensemble, having many people around and having a kind of very, very dark theme around it?
I don't know, maybe I would recommend to do different movies first.
Oh yeah. Sometimes, yeah, it helps.
Yeah, because I thought it would be easier because it was like COVID and I didn't know if I could make it. And then I had the idea of this movie and it helped because it's all in one place. I could film it at home actually, and all that, and just some characters and not like big shoots and everything. But at the end, it was quite hard because you're just in one room, so the actors need to act really well, and there isn't much else to do. So you really need to focus on the characters, the storylines, and I think it's also important to know your characters well. So yeah, that you can make it interesting, and yeah, it's very hard.
And do you have some idea what do you want to film next? Some next story, maybe some next winning competition next year?
Yeah, right now I don't have a new project because I think there's like 2 steps for me in the creative process, like living life and then afterwards processing and reflecting. And with this project, I did this, and right now I'm in the living part of it.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think the idea will come to me. I don't need to search it.
Yeah. You finished this movie in your last year on high school. And what are you doing now? Are you in college or something? What do you study now?
I actually won the competition while I was at school, and the film I made in my gap year. And afterwards, in September, I started studying at university. in Zurich, cinema studies,
Mhm.
and communication and media. So right now I'm learning more about the theoretical part and the film history and stuff. So maybe this will inspire me. I don't know. And we will see what happens in the future. I don't know.
So if there are not any additional questions on Melinda, oh God, sorry, I just stumbled on my tongue. If there are not any additional questions on Melinda, I would kind of probably want to follow up on a previous question on Dorja, because Dorja too made quite a few movies that have different themes and are even in different medias, not only an animation and a film that is fiction, well, acted out. Could you kind of enlighten us on your process and what are the things that you like to do in your movies?
Yeah, well, I don't know. I come up with an idea rather easily, and then the genre and the way that I want to film it just come along with it. I like working with every genres to explore them, see what suits best for me, what works.
Yeah, and you don't focus only on animation, but you do animation. Do you study the animation process or not? Because I know that Andreas probably studies it, but does it more in your free time, isn't it right, Andreas? Sorry.
No, I'm actually not studying anything. I'm doing an apprenticeship.
Oh.
Um,
Oh, yeah.
But I kind of want to quit.
As we all do, but yeah, that's actually yeah. So another common theme. So thank you. Sorry for putting you on spot. So Dorja, you do study animation or don't you?
No, I study audiovisual media. Yeah,
Oh
but
yeah.
I did want to study animation, but I realized stop animation, but I realized I don't have the patience for it. So.
But your film Vivex follows up, I think, on it kind of binds or follows a similar theme as Facade, or it is in the similar area with the at least for me, that it covers the theme of being a bit under the weather, or a bit more contemplative and a bit more tired. Is it something that you personally wanted to cover in your films, probably because of the COVID time, or what were the intentions with your movies?
Well, yeah, I usually like to present some issue, and all movies except Facade, those issues are in some funny light, so that I guess they're taken a bit more easily while still presenting how that we should fix this. Facade and Vivex are, I guess, both maybe problematic, but they're on the opposite sides of the spectrum. While Vivex is a bit more satirical, I try to make Facade very serious and gloomy and such things.
Yeah. Is it are those thoughts that are presented in Facade something that that you personally would want to follow up on, or is probably your next films are going to be like Facade, because it seems very personal, and I think everybody can kind of agree on that. The themes that are presented there, everybody kind of struggles with. Is it something that will be in your next films too, or are you working on something totally different?
Yeah, at the moment I'm working on something totally different, very light-hearted and not at all similar to my previous works. Yeah.
And how does it? Oh, sorry.
Yeah, sorry, I just wanted to ask you about the Crook Show. It is step motion animation about cooking, and I know there is a lot of short films on YouTube about cooking with Lego pieces. For example, did you take some inspiration from that?
Yeah, I saw one, but this was actually made in a very, very short time because it was supposed to be applied for another festival that focused on such problems and global warming. So I took a bit of inspiration, but my film is live action actually. So I tried this. I didn't want to copy, of course.
You didn't copy because the ideas were yours, with all the trash transforming to some kind of food, and it was good. I also sent it to my friend. He has some project, and they cook food from trash. Yeah, and he really liked it, and he told me, yes, this is what I eat." And what do you do? Cook or do more crook?
I tried to cook, but I think it's mostly crook. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm still new.
So, and that is a question for, I think, everybody. What are your ambitions with film, and what would you kind of recommend for somebody starting out and wanted to follow in your footsteps? What is your message to somebody who would want to continue on your path? And I'll kind of direct this question to every single one of you later on. Sorry, it's really putting you on spot, but yeah.
Yeah, I think just to go for it. It's trial by error. You work, you see what goes well, what doesn't, and then you upgrade and improve with every single film you make. Nobody expects that the first thing you make is going to be Oscar worthy, but it's just important to continue creating, and to bring out a message that's important to you.
Yeah. Melinda?
I think for me, it will be kind of the same, like continue trying. And I think for me, it's very important that you have something to say, that you know before you're doing it, that you have a message that is important to you, and then try out how you want to tell it.
Yeah. And Andreas, sorry for putting you on last.
Well, I don't know. I think if you need advice to do it, then you shouldn't be doing it.
That's actually, yeah. Thank you. Thank you for putting us on spotlight. Yeah. But yeah, I think that's actually very valid from all of you. Thank you. And thank you once again for making those movies, because they were actually very, very yeah, they deserve the every little bit of attention that they can have. Sorry, tongue. But thank you once again. Are there any additional questions on the end, or do you want to say something that could kind of enlighten us, or can we wrap? Okay, so I think this is a wrap. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. And once again, thank you for your great work. Yeah. And have
a nice day.
Have the best of luck. And
thank you guys for your work.
Thank you.
Yeah, bye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye bye.